Our guest is the Dean of Announcers for the Grand Ole Opry, Mr. Grant Turner. Grant, it's good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you here again, Earl. I just have been recounting some of my years. When I get to reminiscing, why somebody comes around the microphone, we get to talk. But I'm one of your good listeners of WDOD, and really do enjoy the station. In fact, I have heard your station for years and years, and only yesterday I was talking with Mr. Otis Devine, who prefers more to be called Ott Devine, the former manager of the Grand Ole Opry, and he was telling about his days at WDOD. He never forgets them. He came up from Alabama, then came on in here. I know there are other things you want to talk about besides Otis, but he's retired from the Opry, and I brought that up because I'm sure a lot of people in Chattanooga remember Otis.
Well, there's things that I wanted to talk about you because you're one of our favorite people, and the Grand Ole Opry wouldn't be the Grand Ole Opry if it wasn't for Grant Turner.
Well, I have been here a long time, and I go back to the days of Uncle Dave Macon and Curly Fox and Texas Ruby and Pee Wee King. Louis Buck was another one of our announcers that you know or that you knew, and there's so many things happened here. But you know, I'm proud of the way the Opry has survived. It's 65 years old, and it's a remarkable show. As far as I know, it's probably the longest running radio show anywhere. I don't know of any show that's lasted as long as it has, and for that there always has to be a reason. And I think one of the reasons is that the people here are dedicated to preserving country music, and of course, as you know, the pressures of having a television network and all have forced the Opry to bring in more of the modern type of acts, but they still shy away, and I hope they continue to shy away from rock music on the Opry, although we have come dangerously close to it at times. It sounds a little bit rocky out there, and when it does, well, I think some of the older heads back here, we shake our heads and say, it never was like this at the Ryman. But we left the Ryman back in 1974, and we've never had a growth. There was a time, I don't know whether you know this or not, but the time when Elvis Presley became popular, the Opry was just about on its last legs. And there was even some hint that came from the management that they might close it up. But then country music took a definite swing the other way, and our people that came to attend the show, our customers, our fans, kept increasing. And before long, the management came forward with a new home for the Opry, and they built the new Opry House. Since that time, we have, having all the land that we have in Pennington Bend, we have Opryland, we have the big hotel, and we have the General Jackson Showboat, and a national, almost an international television network, TNN. And all this happened just because somebody believed in country music.
Well, I want to know how you got started in radio, how you came to WSM, and how you came to the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, as a child, I just lived radio. When radio came in, I was just at the age where I could really appreciate putting on those headphones and listening to those old battery radios. And I got into the business. Radio, I think the first broadcast station signed on the air, KDKA went on the air in 1922. I believe this is right. I got into it in 1928. So I got on as a singer, and I had a guitar and a ukulele, and I would sing pop songs.
Now, which station was this, KDKA?
No, that was on a station in Abilene, Texas. That was KFYO. It later moved to Lubbock, Texas, and still a very fine station in Lubbock. and listened to all the farmers and ranchers out there in that part of Texas. But on the days when I was with it, it was a crude operation on the air about 4 hours in the evening. I think we were on the air about an hour during the noon hour, and then they started a breakfast hour about 7 to 9 or something. But we weren't on the air continuously. But when we first signed on, I was on. But the first man that I ever worked with was the man who wrote This Old House and Beyond the Sunset and all, Stuart Hamlin. He was the first country music artist I worked with. And we called him, at the time he was at this radio station, our manager had named him Cowboy Joe. But he didn't keep that name long. When he went with Victor and got to recording, moved to California, he was Stuart Hamlin again. That's his real name. He passed away not very long ago. No.
When did you move to Nashville and WSM?
Well, I had you go from one station to another. I went to, I got in the newspaper business and stayed in that a while. Then I went to Longview and then to Sherman, Texas. And I was down to Piney Woods of East Texas and then over to Sherman. And then I went to Knoxville. And it was there that I really began to appreciate Tennessee and what country music was doing and what it could do. And I was playing both country and pop. I had a country show in the morning, and then I'd come back in the afternoon, do an afternoon pop show during war times. And then an opening came here at WSM, and I jumped at it. And the very man that I told you, Otis Devine, who came from WDOD, he hired me for my job. He was program director here at that time.
You've seen lots of changes in the industry. I guess back in the days when you first started, why you had the big transcriptions, 78s came in, 45s, 33s, and now vinyl is almost a thing of the past, and compact discs are coming in. What's going to be next?
I have no idea, but they changed the speeds. You remember there was a time when we got to 33 and a third, I think it was, on a disc, extended play and all that. But I still like the vinyl. I don't know why I cling to it, but I like the albums because they have a large picture of the artist, and I think those things are interesting to the public. They listen to his music, and then they turn it over and look on the backside, and they see all the other pictures of maybe members of his band, the people who helped him on the album, or maybe his friends or his family or somebody, and it helps you to understand the artist more. And also the liner notes are very good. If you just pick up a cassette now, there's no room for very much. You have to get a bio on him to find out about him. But I still like the vinyl albums. I'm sorry to see them go.
What does Grant Turner do in his spare time? I'm asking you questions maybe that the people out there wondering. They've heard you for years. What do you do in your spare time?
I'll have to answer that with what spare time. I have a syndicated radio show that I do, and that takes you might say that takes 1 day a week. And it's a weekly show, and that takes a day. And then I could, if I wanted to, work the matinees here at the Opry. And I come out to WSM to do at least one job during the week, and then here Friday and Saturday is a real busy time with us here at the Opera House. So I stay busy. I think I don't ever want to get back to working 7 days a week, but during my early days with WSM, I thought I was supposed to work 7 days a week. I didn't know that there was they had arranged a day off in there, but I didn't know it.
Now, you're an old baseball fan, aren't you? Don't you go back with Dizzy Dean, some of those old timers, Pee Wee Reese?
The only connection I ever had with Dizzy Dean, Roy Acuff brought him here, as you know, to be on the Prince Albert show, on the network show, and he sang the Wabash Cannonball. And he'd been singing it on the radio, in the breaks, various breaks in the games. He'd sing the Wabash Cannonball. He'd sing a line or two of it, I guess. but he could sing it all the way through. So Roy asked him to come down and sing with him and talk with him, and be on the show. And Roy was a real good friend of Dizzy's. And Mrs. Dean, Roy used to visit them some, and they used to visit Roy.
But you're not a diehard Noel baseball fan, then?
No, I'm not that much of a baseball fan. Although
you do like to see the Braves win every now and then, don't you?
That's right. I sure do. I've got that much Southern blood in me to be back of the Braves. But I'll tell you this: you're talking about sports. Every celebrity, I think every celebrity that ever comes within, I'll say 100 miles of Nashville, comes to the Grand Ole Opry. They come in and visit backstage. We have more stars backstage than we have out there on the stage. And that's what makes it interesting for us.
Now, presidents have visited here too. I believe you met former President Nixon, didn't you? And
former President Nixon, let's see. I met President Bush when he was vice president. He came here. I don't think he's been inside this building since he's been president, but he was here at one time when he was vice president. And my wife, we were talking about voting. And I said, well, I'm going to vote for him because he's the only politician I know that actually walked up to me and called me by name. He was introduced. I was introduced by Lamar Alexander. Lamar was governor, and he brought Bush in here, and we had him out on stage. And Lamar Alexander played the piano and played the Tennessee Waltz. Roy Acuff sang it, and Bush stayed out there and kept time, patting his hand like this because he didn't sing much. Maybe he didn't know the Tennessee Waltz. I think he sings though. I think I have heard him in a group, when there would be some large group in Washington and everybody's singing together. I have heard him sing.
What's your favorite song?
I don't know. I never did think of that. I would imagine my favorite instrumental would be the San Antonio Rose. But I don't really know what my favorite song is.
You played them all, though.
Yeah, I played them all. Sure have.
What about groups? We've seen transition not only in country music, but in pop music. I mean, we started out years ago, and you had people like Pee Wee King and his cowboy band and Sons of the Pioneers, and now we have the Oak Ridge Boys and just a vast array of groups. So it's changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the business has changed a lot. I don't see how some groups make it, especially when they're first starting out. You take a group, we'll say like the Four Guys. If they don't have a good solid contract, everything they make's got to be split 4 ways, and it probably is a little rough.
But they're good.
Starting out, but they're good, and they're very, very popular out here. The Four Guys have been doing cruises here lately on the cruise boats, and they really enjoy it.
There's a lot of legends that have been on the Grand Ole Opry, like Marty Robbins. Do you remember something particular about Marty that stands out in your mind?
Well, I was here during all of Marty's work with the Grand Ole Opry, and was with him a lot. I was with him sometimes. He would be on with Ralph Emery all night, and he'd play the piano. He'd sit at the piano and play tunes on the piano, do El Paso and things like that. And he never did want to go home. In fact, when I'd come on at 4 o'clock in the morning, he was still there, and I'd have him on my show. But the one thing that I remember most about Marty was, he wasn't much about getting off the air. He wanted to stay on. And he would run our shows over. If the show was supposed to be over at midnight, he might run it over till 12:30. And the management didn't like it too well at first, but they finally got used to it. They decided it was a big show, like a showstopper. It was a big thing. But one time he did a show at the Ernest Tubb Record Shop and sang to the fans out on the sidewalk even after the record shop closed. They'd locked up the place, turned out all the lights. Marty was still out on the sidewalk singing for the fans out on Broad Street. underneath the street light with all those fans gathered around him. Maybe, I'll say about 25, 30 people around him.
They don't make many people like that anymore, do they?
I was with him then, and the only other man that I knew that did that was Hank Thompson. I reminded Hank the other day of that. Hank's been appearing on the Opry here lately, and it's good to have him back.
You were talking just a minute about Marty Robbins. He was not only a great singer and played the various instruments, but he was a tremendous songwriter too, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was a great man along with it. He's just a great person to be around. I believe Marty was a big inspiration to a lot of other people.
Tell me something about Hank Snow, and I know you've got to get to work, but I know you're having your 40th anniversary, I believe, this week with Hank Snow on the Grand Ole Opry.
That's right. We are celebrating 40 years with him. Jim and Jesse have already been here 25, and Billy Walker has had a, I believe, 35th or something like that. I can't remember, but everybody's had an anniversary lately.
Including you.
You told me. Yeah, I had one. I've been here 45 years. You asked me about one other artist.
Hank Snow.
Hank Snow. All right. Hank came here shortly after I got here, and I was on my way into the boss's office. I had heard "Brand on My Heart" and I didn't know that he was with the Big D Jamboree at that time. And I heard "Brand on My Heart" on a jukebox. And I said, that's a man we should have here at the Opry. And I was on my way to the boss's office, and I walked in, and I said, I wanted to mention, I'd like to recommend an artist that I heard, and I think he'd be good for the Opry. His name is Hank Snow. They said, we've already got him. They had already made a deal with him, even before any of us knew it.
One thing, I was over at Ernest Tubbs' record shop before coming over here to the Opry House tonight, and I noticed where that they've taken all of Hank Snow's recordings and put them on compact disc, and also Jim Reeves, I guess 75, 80 songs. It's rather expensive, but to collectors and people that like this music, it's one way to have it in their library and have it in good, clean quality.
Well, then, too, they get so many songs, it makes a good mail order offer, and that's a big thing now. People are, especially the people who are traditional entertainers, they are the people who are selling on, like Slim Whitman will say, selling on TV, yeah.
Grant Turner, I want to thank you for sharing with us, and you're one of our favorite people, and I hope you continue here at the Grand Ole Opry for a long, long time.
I have no plans in the immediate. I must say this, that I've told Roy Acuff, when he decides to retire, I think maybe I will. But I'm not even sure about that. But Roy entertained the idea, and he's discussed it with Oswald, and he's Bashful Brother Oswald, and he said, Oz, I'll retire if you will. And Oz said, I'm not ready to. So that's the way it stands. So Roy continues to do about 8 shows a week right here in this building.
Thank you, Grant, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for letting me speak to our friends on WDOD.
WDOD, on the banks of the beautiful Tennessee, in Chattanooga.